Merriam-Webster defines anorexia as a serious physical and emotional illness in which an abnormal fear of being fat leads to very poor eating habits and dangerous weight loss. Typical questions that arise when the subject of anorexia is brought up are, why would someone want to starve themselves like that? Can't they see that they're way too thin? Why don't they just gain weight? And how does this begin? Before I go any further, I do want to warn you that this presentation will include photos that some might consider disturbing. I apologize in advance for any discomfort you may feel, but it is important to understand how anorexia differs from typical dieting and why it is so dangerous. As a teenager, I suffered from anorexia. And in our brief time together today, I won't be able to answer all the complex questions that accompany this disease, but I can tell my story in the hopes that if you or someone you know is suffering in the same way, perhaps you will know what symptoms to look for and can get help. While anorexia can affect males as well as females, it is much more prevalent in females. First, women and girls are taught to believe that skinnier is better. We are bombarded with images such as these that tell us that no matter what our size is, we should be smaller. And it starts when we're too young to know any different. Couple that with sports and endeavors that celebrate thinness in women such as dance, gymnastics, figure skating, and others, and we have an environment that sets us up to constantly feel like we need to lose a few pounds. That is how it started for me. I was a dancer and I thought that if I lost 5 pounds or so, I would dance better and look better. But millions of people diet. What would cause someone to cross a line between losing a few unwanted pounds and becoming so thin as to become unhealthy? I consulted the website from the National Alliance on Mental Illness because anorexia is a mental and emotional illness, not just a physical one. Environmental factors could include heredity. Because it is a physical disease with mental and emotional components, someone with a family history of any mental illness could be more susceptible to anorexia. Peer pressure, such as teasing, bullying, or ridicule because of size or weight. In addition, a history of physical or sexual abuse can also contribute to some people developing an eating disorder. Finally, perfectionism, impulse behavior, and difficult relationships can all contribute to lowering a person's self-esteem and make them vulnerable to developing eating disorders. In other words, one's immediate home, school, and work environment could have an impact on one's emotional state, which could then flip a switch and turn dieting into something much more dangerous. Additionally, while it can manifest itself in adults, in most cases it shows up in adolescents due to the pressures that are unique to this age group. Another reason why anorexics continue to diet and continue to lose weight even when other people tell them that they are way too thin, including possibly their own doctor, is because the mental part of the illness actually causes a condition called body dysmorphic disorder. The Mayo Clinic defines this as a mental disorder in which you can't stop thinking about one or more perceived defects or flaws in your appearance. In anorexics, others can plainly see that the anorexic is too thin, but in many cases, the extremely thin person actually sees themselves as fat, and they can't stop thinking about that perceived defect. In my case, I didn't necessarily see myself as fat, but I did think that I was a weight that I considered good skinny. It wasn't until years later when I saw photos of myself at 80 pounds on my 5'5" frame that I realized just how sickly I appeared. The issue with this dysmorphia, along with the extreme phobia about getting fat, is that the anorexic will continue to lose weight to the point where it not only looks unhealthy, it is unhealthy, and at times can even be deadly. Here's a list of the possible negative implications of a long-term anorexia at the biological level. First, the brain actually shrinks due to lack of nutrition with a commensurate lowering of IQ. In addition, the skeletal system is damaged, especially if the anorexia occurs in adolescence before the bones are fully developed. In fact, nearly 90% of women with anorexia experience osteopenia, which is a loss of bone calcium, and 40% have full-blown osteoporosis, which is a more advanced loss of bone density. This bone loss is usually permanent. In addition, because the entire hormonal system is compromised by starvation, infertility often results and can also be permanent. But perhaps the most endangered organ in the body is the heart. The most common cause of death in anorexics is heart disease. Much of this is related to muscle deterioration. As the body strives to maintain life, it starts consuming its own muscle. In effect, it starts eating itself, and the heart is not immune. I found this statement on a website called Eating Disorder Hope. Although anorexia is a psychological disease, it behaves more like a physical disease, namely cancer. A cancer cell may begin its life in the breast, brain, or bone, but given enough time, it will metastasize throughout the body with the singular goal of destroying all healthy tissue it encounters. Similarly, anorexia may start with a simple diet and associated weight loss, but once this disease gets a firm grip on its subject, it too metastasizes, and it doesn't stop at merely ravaging a woman's body. Instead, it strives to destroy her mind, spirit, relationships, future, and ultimately her life. Sadly, it is often successful on every front. Here is a list of websites that I consulted when putting this presentation together. Please feel free to visit these as well as the many others that are available. Thank you for your time.